Welcome to AlexGs Aquarium, everybody. Today I have an update in the 720-gallon tank. I haven't given the 720-gallon tank a whole lot of loving lately, and I want to do a specific video update just for this tank to let everyone know how it's doing. I'm going to shrink myself down to the corner here, let everybody watch the tank here while I talk about it a little bit. And I want to start off by talking about how the tank's just been doing overall. While I've been having a lot of algae issues in the 480-gallon tank, I have not been having much in the way of algae issues in the 720-gallon tank. Now, there's a little bit of bubble algae, a little bit of hair algae, and there's a little bit of cyano growing in the tank, but the coralline algae's been taken off. While I only have 3 snails in this giant tank, the algae's been very much under control. There hasn't been any major problems with it. So I'm not that concerned. I do have some algae control measures that I'm going to put into that tank over time. I'm thinking I might do 1 or 2 sea urchins. But overall, the tank has been doing well from that standpoint. I have been cranking up the lights on there, so the 3 AI Vega colors that are over the 720-gallon tank have been turned up to about 80–85%, and they've been doing a really good job. As far as coral goes, I went ahead and I added 1 more coral, which I actually fragged and put into the 720-gallon tank, and that's this big colt coral. It was so massive, I actually fragged it when I first got it. After I put it into the tank, I put it into a couple different spots. Now, I know colt corals are not that much to look at. They're not a really colorful coral, but I just have always been attracted to them, how they kind of wave around in the current. They just have a cool shape to me, and I figured it'd be a great addition to put into the 720-gallon tank because, 1, they're a fairly inexpensive coral, which means if fish do and eventually nip at it a bit, I'm not that concerned. And since I do have it fragged out in there already in a couple pieces, if it started to become a problem with new fish additions, I could always move some of it to the other tank and keep a piece going there. The Blue Ridge coral has also been doing good. It has its polyps coming out now, and it's been looking really good. Overall, I plan to add more corals to this tank over time, although I'll say putting corals into the 480-gallon tank is going to be a higher priority. As far as the fish are doing in this tank, the wrasses are still doing good. There's a bird-nosed wrasse, a Spanish hog, and a clouded wrasse in there, along with 3 orange-tailed damsels. Now, I have added 2 fish to this tank. One is a flame hawk, which I put in a couple weeks ago now. I did run the flame hawk through a quarantine period before it went into the 720-gallon tank. Now, the flame hawk did run into a little bit of a problem with the orange-tailed damsels. They are territorial, although because the tank is so large, they could only push the flame hawk so far before they were leaving their own territory unprotected. But as I figured, the damsels eventually started warming up to the flame hawk, and now the fish has just been accepted as part of the group and is free to kind of roam wherever it pleases without really too much in the way of aggression going on. Maybe a minor bit of chasing here and there, but no outright attacking on the fish. And I assume that this is going to happen. I added a single small fish, so I wasn't surprised. Now, the other addition to the 720-gallon tank, if you haven't noticed already, is a porcupine puffer. And this is a very special fish to me. If you've been watching my videos, I did lose a couple of puffers a while back, and I really love these fish, and I was really kind of saddened by the fact that I lost those fish, especially since I lost them in a hospital tank when they were doing really good, and I thought I was going to be able to get them back into the 720-gallon tank. But unfortunately, with their passing, it opened up the opportunity to get another porcupine puffer, and I guess you can call it fate or whatever you want. But one day I got a call from my local fish store. He had a customer that came in with a very sick porcupine puffer. He said it looks like it's in terrible shape. He didn't have a tank where he could put it to treat it properly at the time, and he asked if I would be interested in taking the puffer. There was no charge. He said just come in and take it and see if you can get it in your hospital tank and get it back to a healthy state, and you can keep the fish free. And I decided that it was better to come in and take the fish and give it a chance, even if it was in bad shape, to see if I could heal it up and get it better in the hospital tank. And I gotta say, I saw this porcupine puffer. I really didn't think that this puffer was gonna make it. While it had good body weight on it and it was swimming around and active, it was in a very bad state of a bacterial infection. Both of its eyes were in a horrible infection. Most of its body and fins were also covered in this bacterial infection. There was fin damage and some pretty severe eye damage, to the point to where I did think this fish was going to go blind and would not be able to see again. The infection had gotten bad enough in one eye to where the lens had actually burst, and the outer casing of the eye lens was basically had a hole in it. It was kind of gaping out. The other one was severely damaged, and the fish just couldn't see, and I felt terrible for it. I got it into the hospital tank though, and started treating with Paragard from Seachem, which is kind of an all-around medication. And the puffer surprisingly started to turn around really rapidly, and the bacterial infection cleared up within about a week, and the eyes started to heal up rather quickly as well. And a little after 2 weeks of being in that hospital tank, I made the move and pulled the puffer out of that tank and put it into the display. I had been feeding extremely light to this puffer. Its first week I did not feed it at all because it did have a really big body mass, and while that might not sound like the best of things to do, having a puffer that's about 7 inches in a 40-gallon breeder tank, it is not going to be very easy to feed that fish what it really requires without causing a major ammonia spike in the tank. And given what happened to the last puffers I had, and that when they started to take a turn for the worse, I had started to step up feeding, I decided to take it easy this time with feeding. But the puffer's been doing really good. It is an extremely aggressive eater. When I first introduced it to the tank, I'm actually pretty sure that it might have eaten the one cleaner wrasse that I had in the 720-gallon tank, because it disappeared the day that the puffer got added to the tank. I'm not that concerned about it though. The puffer was probably very hungry when it got into the tank, but overall it's been doing really good, active. I did get a little concerned as this puffer was being extremely active for about 2 whole days, which is kind of unusual. They usually have kind of a lazy, sleepy period, especially porcupine puffers during the day, because they're nocturnal. That's part of the reason they have such large eyes, as they have a lot of nocturnal activity. And about 2 days after I got the puffer in the display, it actually looked like it was in pretty bad shape, but it turns out it was just kind of resting and sleeping. And later on in that evening, it finally had woken up and was ready to eat. So I've kind of figured out that this porcupine puffer, once it gets to be morning time, it's going to bed, kind of hanging out lazily. After I get home in the evening from work, it seems to pick its activity up, especially when it gets to the evening feeding time, when it knows it's going to probably have a big chunk of food waiting for it somewhere. That's the main thing with the 720-gallon tank I wanted to talk about today, is that the tank's doing good, the fish are doing good in it, and overall I will mention the 720-gallon tank with its bracing has been holding up good. There have been no leaks in the tank that I have seen yet that are detectable. The bracing system seems to all be holding the way it should be, and the tank overall has been running really good. There'll be more fish getting added to this system in the near future, and once I get a little bit more progress along in the 720-gallon tank, I'll definitely be doing another update video on it. So if you like today's video, go ahead, hit that thumbs up, let me know you like the content. If you got comments or questions about the 720-gallon tank or any of its inhabitants, go ahead, leave a comment down below. And if you want to see more on the 720-gallon tank and the rest of the 1600-gallon system, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I will see you on the next video.